Welcome back to Conscious Corner with Courtney, where we explore how mindfulness, self-awareness, and authenticity can help us thrive in every layer of life. Today, I'm joined by the incredible Caren Cooper, a certified Neuro-Identity Evolution practitioner and trauma-informed mindset coach. Caren helps Gen X women with what she refers to as unscrewing themselves from inherited identities, perfectionism, and people pleasing so they can lead with embodied confidence and live fully expressed lives. Caren is the founder of the Unscrew Yourself program, which supports high achieving women like entrepreneurs, executives, and visionaries in rewriting the internal stories that hold them back. Through a powerful blend of somatic work, neuroscience, and energetics, she helps her clients release old patterns and reclaim their true power. So if you've ever found yourself wondering, why does it still feel this hard even though I've done everything right? This episode is for you. So let's dive in, and I want to give a great big welcome to Caren. Welcome, Caren.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So nice to have you here. And I'd love to start with your story and hear about what led you to this work around identity evolution and helping Gen X women reclaim their power.
The short version, I'll give you the short version of the story. Short version of the story is, I'm from the school of you go to college and you get a job,
Yeah.
right? And so I did that. And I worked in the advertising industry for 29 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was fun and it was ridiculous. And somehow we survived it. But in 2020, I found myself without a job. A
Mhm.
few years prior to that, I found myself without a job, but I had found another job, and I just couldn't bear looking for another job again in my early 50s. I just couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
So I decided to become a full-time entrepreneur. I had been doing network marketing on the side of my full-time career in advertising. So I was
Mhm.
like, you know what? No, COVID hit too. Like COVID hit, my job ended at the same time.
I was just going to ask you that, like, where
Literally,
was
yeah,
COVID?
100%. My contract was till March 31st of 2020. We saw the project was dying in January of 2020. And so I just was like, I'm not doing it. Then COVID was like, you know what? The universe gave me a pandemic because I didn't listen the first time and I lost my job to like become a full-time entrepreneur. So the universe is like, I'm gonna do a pandemic. Now go be an entrepreneur. Um, and so in doing that though, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Like I legitimately was like so used to working in the corporate environment that
Mhm.
I found myself no thinking like, why am I not doing anything? I know I'm made for more, but I'm just not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And I was doing personal development, but I knew I needed a deeper dive into who like really the inner working, so to speak.
Right.
And
Right.
serendipitously, my mentor Tracy Litt actually showed up on a training call I had for my network marketing company. And
Hmm.
Kirsten was from Jersey. I'm like, done, sold, whatever you're selling, I'm in. And
Yeah.
so I started her free stuff and I started being in her world. And through that, I ended up taking her course called Mind Magic. And that was the input, that's the inner workings and doing all of that. And that transformed me so deeply. I'm a student of the work I teach. That literally was like, it just literally made me like, oh, this makes sense. I understand what's going on with me now.
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to then become certified in the framework so that I can help other women like myself who were feeling stuck in their own way and just not doing anything be able to get out of their own way.
Right. And that's a similar sort of path or journey to how I came upon mindfulness in feeling stuck. And when I took the foundational mindfulness program, known as the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, during that program, I started to notice some of my patterns
Mhm.
and really started to understand how my mind worked. And by understanding that, I was able to, as you mentioned, like I could get out of my own way. Because although there were very real present stressors in my life, so much of the stress that I experienced and the stuckness, it was compounded by the inner narrative, by what I was telling
The, the,
myself.
the, inner, the inner critic, the shitty committee, as I like to say. Yep.
I like that. Yes. And I just made that committee that much stronger by what I was telling myself, and it held me back from the way in which I could excel in the work that I was doing, but even more importantly, just my ability to find joy in life and fulfillment and feel true to myself, to who I am. So I love that you have this program where you so boldly and in such a freeing way, you use the phrase unscrew yourself. So I'm curious to learn what that means to you and what patterns you see most often with the women that you support.
Unscrew yourself is because literally we are the cause and the effect. Fuck is my favorite word ever, but like I knew people may be off put by that. So I was like, oh my God, unscrew yourself. And it really means getting out of your own way. It means like really unscrewing yourself from who you were to who you really can be.
Mm-hmm.
That's really for me what it means, right? And it gets a laugh from people because I'm very big proponent of this work and being serious about it, but I'm also ridiculous and it has to be fun. There has to be joy
Yeah.
involved in this. And so what I see a lot of, to your point, what you were saying, is
Mm-hmm.
exactly that. There's not a lot of fun. There's not a lot of joy. The
Yeah.
inner critic is looming large, and the overarching theme is I'm not enough and I'm not worthy. That's the
I'm not enough and I'm not worthy.
and I'm not worthy. It's like
Yeah.
the big
Yeah.
overarching theme I see with a lot of women, Gen X women especially. So it's like I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, and therefore I speak very poorly to myself about myself. And because of that, it just trickles down into literally every aspect of your life.
And
Work, everything.
what's so interesting is that a lot of times Gen X women, we have so much together. Like people look at us like we're a pretty incredible specimen, but yet we still get in our own way. We have such a talent of telling ourselves otherwise, like we're not enough yet. When we do X or when
Huh?
we accomplish Y, then we're going to be good enough. But with mindfulness, the work that I do, we realize that how we are and where we are in this very moment is intrinsically whole and completely enough, if not more than enough. And when we can feel into that, like when we can actually believe it, but not have to tell ourselves, but feel it, have more of an embodied sense, I think
Right.
that opens the gateway to endless possibility. But what you also said, just the name of your program and how you like to have fun and joy, we take ourselves so seriously that even the name, just that the name of your program, there's a lightness, there's a laughter, there's a silliness that I think in the seriousness of what many of us do in our careers and what's taking place in our lives, we need a little bit of that, or a lot of that silliness.
We have to, and it's to piggyback on what you say, all of what you just said, but it's also a matter of, there's no joy, there's the I'm happy, I'll be happy when X, I call that conditional happiness. But the
Mhm.
thing is, we also get to choose. Like we can actually actively be like, I'm going to be happy today just for the sake of being happy.
That's a
Like,
choice.
that's a choice. We
Yeah.
are able to make a choice of how we want to feel on a daily basis. So we
Yeah.
don't have to wait for that external. That's the societal um thing that we've been fed.
Yeah.
It's looking for the external when in reality everything is internal.
Yeah, yeah, and I think if you have a group of people sitting around, 9 times out of 10, people are going to gravitate to the negative. They're going to gossip. They're going to talk about what isn't wholesome, what's wrong, what's bad, but it's a choice. And speaking to, I know we'll get into this in a bit about the somatics work, like feeling into the body, when we can connect with what feels good, what doesn't feel so good, the more and more we can tap into, like, it doesn't feel so good to talk badly about another woman, another person. When we can lean into the goodness and sense what that brings up for us, not only in heart, mind, but the whole body. I think that inclines us to want to take in more and more of that. But I'm interested, and you focus your work so heavily on, or primarily with Gen X women. Interested in learning more about why you think this generation in particular, which I'm part of, is feeling so stuck, so burned out, so unseen right now.
Because we lived everybody else's life. We literally lived everybody else's life. Okay. I had a freaking shoelace with a key around my neck at 9. It was like ridiculous. Like we were
Yeah.
feral. We were just left to our own devices. And did it make us scrappy? 100%. Am I street smart? I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I can literally go from, heaven and light to I will cut you immediately. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm
like,
not gonna mess with you.
you know what I'm saying? But like,
Yeah.
I can do that. But like my point being, we were feral. We were left to our own devices. We weren't allowed to feel our feelings. We weren't allowed to do anything. We would just like go place. Children were seen and not heard. And
Right.
this is what you have to do, right? You have to go to school, you go to college, you get a job. White picket fence to 2.5 kids, blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah. And success meant a good job. Success meant money. Success meant all of these
Yeah.
types of things, right? So it was all that's what we were fed. And
Right.
so we did that. So a lot of us did that, myself included.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 2 kids, a cat. So I guess the 2.5, I don't have the white picket fence, but I got you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I totally did that. And at some point, and then by the way, a lot of us who had kids and were working moms, that's a whole other conversation,
Mm-hmm.
about having it all together and all that kind of stuff. And it was all of a sudden, it was like, wait a second, hold up.
Yeah.
Is this all there is?
Yeah.
I don't, I, but I felt, I'll never forget an interesting point about this. When I had my daughter, okay, who's going to be 24 next month, I had her a month before 9/11 happened, and I live in New York, just to give you the idea. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember and I went back to work when she was 10 weeks old. Okay. And I remember being so angry at my ex-husband because I'm like, son of a bitch, you're not making enough money for me to stay home. I was so pissed off about it.
Yeah.
Right. And in our separation and whatnot, I'm like, that wasn't even my belief. It turns out that like I didn't even realize it at the time. That was something, well, men should make more than women and blah, blah, blah. And that's what I believed then. But in doing the work, no, it wasn't my belief. And that's what's happening. We're starting to question it. We're starting to be like, wait, there's got to be more to life than what I'm currently doing. And
Right.
so now we're mad as hell and we don't want to take it anymore. So we're literally questioning our whole lives and being like, we want more. We want to be, and we fit into boxes and we dimmed and we shrunk and we weren't our true authentic selves. We lived everybody else's life. Now we want to live our own.
Yeah. I think that women are, to your point, thinking outside the box, getting curious, seeing that there's another way, that even though we've been conditioned to do things a certain way and to have the good job, to get married, to have children, and when we have all that and feel a void or something's missing, we turn to other resources to do deeper exploration to see how we can feel more authentic, truer to ourselves. I see it come up with women. I work a lot, being that I worked as a litigator for 20 years. I work with a lot of attorneys, a lot of female attorneys who have really climbed the ladder, have these high positions, they're shareholders, they're partners at the firm. And it was sort of this mindset that, I'm an associate, but once I climb the ranks and I'm at the top of the ladder, that my life is going to be
Right.
perfect. And then they get there and you bring in family. In my experience, you start the family and it just is like a recipe for chaos. It becomes harder and harder. So you're constantly striving and looking for a way to get to that golden place.
Mhm.
So I feel like I can relate to when you often share on LinkedIn and in the work that I've seen of yours, that women are saying, okay, I've done the work, but why is it still so hard? And when you're trying to fit a square into a circle or circle into a square,
Right.
there's something missing. So how do you how do you help these women to unscrew themselves, to
Get to the root.
find more joy?
Well, we get to the root. So what I do is I get to the root. So my program is a 10-week program, and
Mhm,
we really get to the root cause of what's going on
mhm,
so that we
mhm.
really truly understand what happened, what made you feel unworthy, what made you feel the way you were, what
Yeah.
what event happened that caused the trauma for you.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
decided that you weren't enough and you weren't worthy, and that's the story you told yourself, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But once you understand the root cause of what happened,
Yeah.
then we can rewire and reprogram at the subconscious level, and change your belief and change your story and rewrite all of those beliefs that you were telling yourselves. And that's where the somatics comes in, and that's where the neuroscience comes in. Okay.
Yeah.
And we work through that, so that literally in identity evolution, you come to me feeling this way and you leave me feeling whole. You were whole to begin with, but you weren't feeling that way. So now you're feeling whole, confident, and true within yourself. And it's
Mhm.
a process of unbecoming to become. And so
Yeah.
that's the work that we do in
I
that program.
I'm really, this is a, in the big scheme of things, the intersection of mindfulness and neuroscience
Correct.
is relatively new compared to other research that has been conducted. But what I think is so extraordinary, and especially when you get to work with someone like you who specialized in this area, is that we realize how powerful our minds are, that our minds can be our worst enemy and they can lock us and make us stuck even further, or they can help us to break free, that we can use our minds to literally rewire our brains so that we can create healthier relationships with ourselves, with our life situations. So I love that you weave that into your work. And then I also understand that you also incorporate energetics and somatic work. So, in particular, the work that you do with the nervous system, um, how I know for myself that when I get overwhelmed, when I'm feeling anxious about something that's coming up, or maybe there's just a lot going on in my personal life, that I can fall into a
I
stress
relate.
response.
I
And
totally relate to that right now.
what's that?
I can totally relate to that right now.
Yeah, and it's just, I've seen it before. Like I know there's no saber-toothed tiger, but my nervous system really
Yeah,
like gets hijacked by my thoughts, and then to the point where it's physiological. I'm feeling it in my body, and it's
100%.
sometimes sometimes a little easier than others. I can go for a walk, I can pick up the phone, talk to a friend, create some space, step out of doing mode. But I know that sometimes it's real, it's felt, it's physiological that we fall into fight or flight mode. So, what are
Survivor
some,
mode, I say. Yeah.
what's that?
Survivor mode. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know another one that I recently reached out to on LinkedIn because I just learned about it, and it's one that shows up all the time for me. But when we're in fight or flight mode, or freeze, what are some practices that you teach Gen X women who you work with to help them move through that, to step out of reactivity, to find ways to calm themselves and to respond in more healthy ways?
I have a myriad of, I have like, and I'm not joking when I say this, like I literally have a whole slide of
Yeah.
like nervous system regulation things to do.
Mhm.
So it can be different for everyone.
Yeah.
But when you are really like in that overwhelmed survival stress state,
Mhm.
right? One of the first things I tell people, because it's really hard to calm down when you're in that state, and just first of all be aware of it. So the first thing is 100% awareness. So as long as you're aware, then you can at least make the choice to do something with it. Okay. So
Right.
one of the best things I tell people to do when they're really like, I'm overwhelmed and I can't walk, just to get to the point of maybe even going for a walk, bilateral stimulation music. So you can just sit and put your headphones on and do bilateral stimulation music,
Yeah.
uh, or even just like a quick inhale and exhale of your breath. The three things, like when you're really like high like that, it's just like quick breathing in and out, like just quick deep breaths,
Mm-hmm.
bilateral stimulation music. And I actually used, when my daughter was anxious, the five senses
Yeah.
activity, you know, the five things that you could see, three things, four things that you can touch, and
Yeah.
those type of things, because that'll at least get you a little calmer.
Yeah.
Once you're like, you know, in the calmer state, and like the freeze or the fawn in that kind of a state, then it's really having a conversation with your body and asking your body, what do you need right now? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's to go for a walk. Sometimes it's just, I've been hugging trees a lot lately. Sometimes it's hugging a tree in nature. Sometimes it's putting your feet in nature. Sometimes it's self-given orgasms. Sometimes it's, you know, alternate nostril breathing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's really different for every meditation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Shakti mats, I know a lot of people do as well. Those types of things. So it's really a matter of what feels right in your body at that time. And that's
Yeah.
what you will do to regulate your nervous system.
Yeah, and I think circling back to what you said, the awareness piece, when we are on autopilot, we're not able to even identify what's happening. We feel it and we may be highly reactive, but taking some time to even notice what's happening in the body. What are we telling ourselves? What moods are here right now? So that clear seeing is, back to what you said, is what gives us the choice. If we can see what's here, then we can notice that we have a plethora of choices, and we can determine what is most supportive depending on where we are, what's coming up for us. The one, so I teach the mindfulness based stress reduction program, and I had learned just a couple weeks ago, we were in week 5 of the program. And of course, I knew the stress response of it. We know we're hardwired when we perceive something as a danger or threat to us, whether it's physiological, physical or psychological. We can go into fight or flight or freeze. But this new one that I was unaware of until recently is fawn, where we basically like become like cave, like we may want to say no to someone when they ask us to do something, but we say yes. And we, it could be, from my understanding, it could be like trauma induced, or it could,
100% trauma response.
yeah. And it shows up for me. I've noticed this in many different ways, and it comes from a good place. Like you don't want to be the one to rock the boat. You want to be the sweet one, the one that doesn't cause any type of disruption. But that over time, that chronic holding in, saying yes when you want to say no, it builds. It builds and builds and builds. I feel like so much is internalized. And and getting back to your point, the ability to become aware of that, to notice how it feels in the body, when you can more and more increasingly identify how much that shows up for you in your life, and make choices that are more freeing, that actually correlate to what you're actually feeling, it's very liberating. And I think it helps us to break out of that.
That's 100% true. And that's actually, I did a post about this today, but that's because a lot of, also back to what we were talking about with Gen X, we were people pleasers. So we
Yeah,
absolutely put everybody else's needs above our own, which is very
yeah,
similar to the fawn response. And we were also, I know I was, I'm fine. I'm fine. Everything is, and on the inside, 100% not fine. You
yeah,
know, but a lot of us did that because we were people pleasers, because that's the trauma response. We needed everything to be okay and not to rock the boat. So the point is, so, and something I teach in my program, and I did a post about this today, is it's called actually the choice method. It's when you feel that, wait, you want to say no, but you're thinking about saying yes, stop yourself. The whole thing is, you can't change what you're not aware of. So awareness is key. I call it the non-judgmental observer. There's like a little
yeah,
hologram version of yourself that hangs out here. And she's
yeah,
like, hey, isn't that interesting? That's like my big thing. And isn't that interesting? So
yeah,
you say, wait, I want to say yes, but I want to say no, but I'm thinking about saying yes. Stop yourself and be like, okay, what would she do? What would your higher version of yourself do? She would say no, then that's you, then you say no. And that's okay. That's the boundary that you set, and that's what you do.
And that's what allows women who work with you to fully express who
Right.
they are, what it is they want. What do you think, especially with the segment of women who you work with, Gen X women, what do you think gets in the way of them giving themselves permission to show up fully?
We're not, honestly, I hate to say it like this, but it's the truth. We weren't taught to celebrate ourselves. We were not taught that bragging is a bad thing. If you're
Yeah,
conceited, you're, you know what I mean? There was negative connotations
yeah,
to showing up. You know what I mean? We were kind of to be seen and not heard. And I'm not trying to get political, but we're women, and so let's just leave it at that, right? So we're almost like secondhand citizens in a way, anyway. And so a lot of that is like, well, we don't want to rock the boat, so we won't rock the boat, so we won't
yeah,
show up, so we won't, we'll shrink and we'll hide and we'll say we're okay and we'll people please so that we don't rock the boat. We don't come off as pretentious and all that kind of a thing. And then,
right.
like I said, we're realizing when you're not true to who you are,
Mhm.
it absolutely shows up in your body. It stressors, all of that shows up in your body. And like I said, we're all starting to really, the beautiful thing is that mindfulness and the things that you and I do is so much more prevalent now. It's so much more out there now, right?
Yeah,
So I think it's quote unquote more normal now. And I think women, especially, like I said, we're questioning ourselves, but we're like, wait a minute, I'm kind of fabulous. Why am I not showing up as just my old fabulous self? Because we're the cause and the effect, right? So with the way we show up, if we're showing up poorly, it trickles down. When we show up as our bold, authentic, unique selves, there's
yeah,
literally no one else like this in the world. It doesn't just apply to your work, whatever
right.
that may be. It literally applies to your life as
Yep.
a whole. You'll lose people, but you're gaining people. Like it's literally like a death in a way that you're unbecoming, but it's really freeing, and you'll be like, you're liberated, literally liberated.
Yeah. I just saw, and maybe it's because I was down the shore for a family vacation and we saw the hermit crabs. I had them as a kid. I don't know if you had them, but like they shed their skin.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm using the right word, but it's like they're still very much their full body's there, but they shed this excess skin and then they go into a new shell. And what's coming up in mind for me is this image of us just shedding what's no longer serving us. We're letting it
100%.
go and we're moving into a bigger, more beautiful shell. You mentioned about we shrink ourselves, and I think we've been conditioned to not take up too much room in the
Correct.
in a space, whether that's like physically the size, our size, or just how loud we speak, but that's changing. And I think women want to be heard more. They're ready to be more visible. So if a woman who's listening wants to connect more deeply with how incredible she is and wants to be more visible, what would you invite her to consider?
I would consider one of the best, one of the honestly, is mirror work.
Mirror work?
Mirror work is talking to yourself. It's an exercise I actually do every day,
Yeah.
because it's really about loving yourself first.
Mm,
Okay, it's really honestly about self-love and
mhm.
truly trusting and loving yourself from within. And
Yeah.
by doing mirror work, by talking kindly to yourself, I
Yeah.
do this every morning and I tell everybody I know to do this. Mel Robbins, I give, this is not me, the high five. High fiving yourself in the mirror is all from Mel Robbins. Literally stand in front of the mirror after you take a shower and I go, hi, Karen, I love you. Karen, I'm proud of you. Karen, you're amazing. I say that 2 times. And then I say, Karen, I love you. Karen, you're worthy. Karen, you are enough. And I do that 2 times. And
Mm,
so when you want to show up, that's a good, I would say easy, that's a good way to start to do that. And when
yeah.
you want to become more visible, right? So that's a good way to just be like, have confidence, having self-love and starting to have confidence in yourself. And visibility looks different on everybody, I feel like. So
Yeah.
what does that look like for you? visibility could mean having a tough conversation, right?
Yeah.
Visibility could mean showing up online, doing a video online. You know, a lot of times people are worried about what other people are going to say and think
Mhm.
they're afraid of the judgment from others. All judgment is self-judgment, fun fact.
Yeah.
And what anybody says is none of our business. So if you want to show up, just show up and let the chips fall as they may. That's also a good way to be like, you know what, they said something and that's okay. That's on them. I showed up as who I wanted. That felt good to me. I enjoyed that.
Mm. I love that. That's like we in the work that I do, we often teach towards the end of the 8-week program, we teach a loving kindness practice where we wish ourselves well, we wish others well, but it's when done with regularity, it's amazing how we can really have hold more compassion, more kindness for ourselves and towards others. I feel like my husband, we share a bathroom, but I have like my own vanity area. He has his, and he's going to come in the near future, and there's going to be like hand marks. He's like, were the kids climbing up on the counter here? No, it's just me,
You don't have to
high
touch the
fiving
mirror.
myself.
You don't have to, I don't touch my, I just like literally like, go like this. And it,
Yeah.
that's all. But I actually, a lot of it is the fear, like to your point is about, yes, we love ourselves and things like that. A lot of the things that hold us back is fear. And the last 3 weeks of my program, I have it's literally all about fear and how to shift our relationship with fear. So I
Yeah.
think as well.
Yeah, yeah, a big one I see in the women who I work with and that I see showing up in my own life is the fear of messing up.
Yep.
And 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 so what? So what if you do? It's not the end of the world. So when we can lean into like see our fears clearly, again, I think that is just another way of freeing ourselves, not holding
Mhm.
ourselves back. If
Definitely.
listeners want to connect with you and learn more about your Unscrew Yourself program, more about how they can work together with you, where do you suggest they find you?
Find me on all the socials. Find me on all the social media. I'm Caren Cooper on all the socials. And it's Caren for those of you who are listening. FYI, Cooper. I literally used to get faxes because I'm 56. So I would say Cooper. I don't say the ER because I'm from Brooklyn. So it's like
Yeah.
COPA. I would get faxes that said COPA. Um, and just so friend me and just let me know that you listen to this podcast and whatnot. And actually, I believe in all three in Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn is my calendar link. So
Okay.
absolutely book a call. I do free discovery calls. So we can
Okay.
just have a chat about what my program is, what's going on with you, and if, and then we can go further with if you wanna, me to coach you and whatnot on the program and whatnot. So that's where I think it would be best to get a hold of me.
Perfect. I have one last question for you. I'm curious about what living fully expressed means to you in this season of your life.
Oh my God, that's such a loaded question in the season of my life right now. Um, so in the season of my life currently, and then I'll answer your question, but just to
Yeah.
give the listeners an idea, I am currently in the process of cleaning up the house I've lived in for the last 27 years. Um, my ex and I had separated and lived here for the last 3 years for financial reasons, and now we're actively in the process of selling our house that our kids grew up in and getting a divorce. And my daughter just got engaged. All in the last like month and a half.
So
So just
the
to give you the idea of what's currently going on in my life. So how I'm living fully. So this is why I said all of that, because your season of life could be different. And how I'm living fully is that I'm leaning in. And what I mean by that is I was having a lot of grief that I was unaware that the grief of, and really, moving forward with ending my marriage and filling my house and all the things, I didn't realize grief was going to be a huge part of that. And it took me very much by surprise. So I've been leaning into all the emotions, feeling all the emotions, and reaching out to people, asking for help in dealing with all these emotions and all that and all of that. So living fully means expressing my emotions, you know, and really feeling all the feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and being and doing the work and
Yeah.
continuously doing the work and not being angry with myself and not being um um shitty to myself
Yeah.
about anything. Is really being curious and understanding and what's going on and letting people know what's going on with me and processing. And then really honestly infusing levity. I dance on social media every Friday and just infusing levity into the situation because it's a ridiculous situation that I'm in and it's very serious at times, but it's also the duality of like, you know, here it is with selling the house, we're getting a divorce and my daughter gets engaged. It's like, oh my God, like all this beauty is around me. It puts a lot of things in perspective. So it's living fully and just being present and just not hustling through everything, right?
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
really being in the moment, whatever that moment. And because there are days, Courtney, I mean, like yesterday, perfect example. I was happy. I was
Yeah.
fine. I
Yeah.
was angry at something that had happened. I was very triggered by something that happened. I worked through the trigger. I was happy again. I cried last night and then I was happy again. That was
Yeah.
literally all in a 24-hour period. And I just leaned into it. So living fully is that it's owning it and I'm showing up on social media as that. Like I'm being vulnerable, I'm sharing that. I'm not doing the, you know, the ways, I guess the way, you know, business people would say to post and things like that. I'm
Yeah.
sharing it on social media because I feel like it's important for me to show others this is what it looks like to go through this season of life. You know, I haven't said that what I said it here, but like on social
Yeah.
media, I'm stripping away everything and that kind of a thing. So that's how I'm showing up fully because I'm showing up as what feels right to me and my body and actively continuously doing the work and making sure that I feel good about who I am. And in doing so, my ex and I have had amazing conversations. My kids and I have had amazing conversations. Like people are seeing it and they relate to it in their own way,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's challenging. It's life and what you're going through and the way that you can be kind to yourself and what is coming through by with what you're saying is you're allowing. You're
Yeah.
not resisting. You're allowing what is unfolding in your life in at this point in your life. And when we can, again, it's not that it feels easy, and I'm sure at certain points, you know, who wants 27 years of accumulated stuff in a house alone is a huge undertaking. But when we can acknowledge what's here and allow our emotions, allow our experiences to be as they are,
Mhm.
that's what makes us more resilient. That's what allows us to get through
Yeah.
and be with life when life gets, as you said, lifey. So
Life gets lifey. And think about it this way. The caterpillar, and I think about this too. Like I always say, everything works out for your highest good, even if it feels like crap at the time. But
yeah.
100% true. But you know, the caterpillar became the butterfly. And I think about that often, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't necessarily comfortable to sit in
Hmm.
his own liquid, but in the end, they knew something beautiful was going to come from that. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with myself. And like whenever you feel like growth, and I'm also real and honest about this. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's who I am. I'm real and honest. Growth is painful, and it's not all rainbows and sunshine. It can be very, 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 very painful. But at the same time, what comes out of it is something beautiful, whatever that is. We don't know what that is, but that's the cool part. We have no idea what it is, and it's just something new and different from what we had.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I want to meet you for coffee and continue our conversation. I really enjoyed our
Do
time
it.
together, and
You're only an hour away from me, by the way.
I'm not that far. I really appreciate your authenticity, and I think by you sharing your experience with life it makes you that much more relatable to our audience, to your followers. So thank you for being so candid. And I will be sure to share your social media links so that people can connect with you. But I'll be sure to be following you on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. I really enjoy your work and I appreciate your time here with
Thank you.
me.
Thank you so much for having me. You do what you put out into this world is unbelievable, and you are a gift that is waiting.
Aw, thank you. The
You're
feelings
welcome.
are mutual.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.